Today, I'm going to talk about food and diet hacks that make it easier to stick to a whole foods and healthy diet, as well as just make it healthier. A lot of things I'm going to talk about are different techniques and ways of preparing food, as well as seasoning it to, again, make it both healthier and taste better. So it's easier to stay with long term, especially whole foods. Because even without all these seasonings and things, I love them in general, but with them, it just makes them, I think, on a whole nother level than any other processed food. They just taste amazing and make me feel really good as well, which just perpetuates it. But a lot of what I want to talk about is connected to phytonutrients. So if you've watched some of my previous videos, you know what phytonutrients are. Basically, these small chemicals in plants that plants create that also have a lot of benefits for humans. And I listed the three main here. The biggest one is antioxidant. I mean, we've all heard antioxidants, but it's good to really know what that is. So if you look up oxidative stress or learn what that is, it's really beneficial. Not the actual thing, but knowing what it is. So oxidative stress is, when your body is going through its natural processes of creating energy through the mitochondria and through the cells. And as a natural byproduct of that, it creates these things called free radicals, which if I remember correctly are either, small compounds or atoms that don't have the proper amount of electrons or they have one missing, which makes it, um, you know, it makes it so they can damage your body and your cells. And so what antioxidants do is it gives your body extra electrons that it can give to those atoms or compounds to make them, whole again and not necessarily going to damage you. So the way I think about it is kind of like a seesaw, if you cut this in half. And so if you have more like free radicals than you do antioxidants, you're going to be a lot more susceptible to disease and things like that because they're going to like overrun your body and damage them more. And the things that, like the doctors or whatever your body don't really, can't really counteract as much damage as happening. But if you have less damage, less free radicals, and more doctors to help out, then you're going to be a lot more resistant to disease and things like that. And of course, when you're younger, it's a lot easier to have your body doesn't make as much oxidative stress. And then as you get older, that changes. But a lot of these things help out through way of antioxidants with the phytonutrients. Second is it's very much lowering of inflammation, and we know how bad inflammation is. Chronic inflammation, not acute. Chronic inflammation is bad for just your overall health, which also connects into your overall metabolic health with your cells and its metabolism. And that's all kind of the benefits of phytonutrients. And it's why I'm such a proponent of, whole foods, not just for the extra vitamins and minerals that you get, but really because of the true compounds that you get from these plants that is, I think, so amazing. And so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is herbs. So adding these herbs into any of the foods that you make is going to make them a whole lot better, not taste wise, but health, as I said. So I don't really do much of these. I definitely want to when I'm, cooking my own food, but one that I do use frequently when I cook is rosemary. And so what I'll do, there's a cool compound in rosemary. I don't know what it's called, but I put it in my ground beef or like on top of steaks. And what that does is when I either grill or like pan fry, whatever, make my ground beef or steak, it makes the compounds of the char or, like when you kind of quote unquote burn the ground beef or steak, it makes it less damaging to your body. Like the rosemary literally negates some of that, very minimal small damage from the overcooked parts of steak or beef. And so I mix that in with my ground beef and it helps that. And I think that's really cool. Basil, parsley, oregano, saffron, chives, cloves, all good things you can add in. Little cilantro in like quinoa or brown rice. Another one I put here is chia seeds, which isn't an herb, but I think it's something kind of similar that you just like toss into things. I really like to put it in my Greek yogurt. It's very high in fiber and very high in phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals. So very good option. I think I like know the calories. It's like 150 calories for 5 grams of 150 calories and 30 grams with 5 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber. It's actually kind of crazy. Nutritional yeast is another one which is really great. Super high in B vitamins, which are very important for like energy creation, and also a bunch of other vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. You want to make sure you get an unfortified version if you do get this. I love putting this in my cottage cheese or on top of vegetables. It has kind of like a cheesy taste, and I think it's a really underutilized quote unquote seasoning that people should really start using. Other ones are, so now we get into spices. So onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, salt, cayenne pepper, regular black pepper. I use all of those. I literally just dump them into my ground beef when I make it. Pretty much all of those. They all have, unique phytonutrients in them. Let's see if I can name any of them. Curcumin, actually, I think the cayenne is capsaicin. Same thing with like hot sauce. Really, like these things have minimal calories, but a lot of flavor and a decent amount of nutrition in them. I know people who just like load hot sauce on everything, which, you know, capsaicin and like spice, as in like hot spice, is really kind of it drives down your hunger too, and like makes you more full, which is really cool. Also have some good like metabolic benefits. But and obviously I try as much as I can to eat the whole food. So like actually putting onions on what I'm eating or garlic cloves. I don't know what actual paprika is, but like ginger. My mom makes ginger tea, which is really cool. So the actual whole food is going to be better, but these things, the spices, small adding them in is absolutely going to be beneficial. And why not do that extra to make it good as well? Another one is cinnamon, which I use every single day in my Greek yogurt. I think it makes it taste so good. You want to make sure to get the Ceylon version instead of the Cassia. The Cassia is the mainstream version that you'll find. You have to make sure to actually read the ingredient label. The Ceylon has I think it's something like 63 times less of a harmful compound called coumarin, I believe, in the cinnamon, which can, if you have a lot of cinnamon, it can kind of build up the coumarin. So you definitely want to get the Ceylon for a lot lower levels of that. Ginger is also the one that's super good. Um, I know it's very common in like sushi. My brother like downs that when we have sushi. Again, my mom makes ginger tea. When I'm home, I make sort of these cool like immune shots or whatever. I'll do like ginger, turmeric, black pepper, um, I think garlic cloves, honey, and then ginger. It doesn't taste too good, but I know it's like pretty good, and I've seen some like cool recipes for it. I already talked about like the hot sauce, really low calorie. Vinegar is also really good for like curbing appetite, which I also believe is in hot sauce. And then another with like soy sauce. The only thing you have to watch out for is salt, depending on how active you are. But I love soy sauce and to make things taste really good. You can make, I mean, there's not many proteins in the world, right? You're having some sort of beef or steak, chicken, or another bird like turkey, eggs, some sort of dairy, whether it's just straight up milk, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, some sort of regular cheese or hard cheese. What other proteins are there? Of course, there's like the plant proteins like edamame, quinoa, some others like chia seeds. But I mostly count like the animal proteins. Um, oh, fish, of course, salmon, which I definitely eat a lot. And you can come up with and there's so many recipes online. You can ask like some sort of AI. You can just look it up on Google. Like there's so many ways of seasoning chicken, whether it's like soy, honey, garlic, lemon chicken, which like all those I make a lot, or my family makes a lot, which are really good. And so yeah, definitely try to add in herbs and spices into your diet a lot more to make your foods taste better and also healthier as well. Um, and like the whole food version would be better. Some other really good, hacks, techniques would be air frying food. Um, I got recently I got a air fryer that's like really big. It's like fully glass. It was pretty cheap. It was like 80 or $90, and I'll use it every day, and it is so worth the money. It makes it so I can, you know, air fry portions of food without using oil that you would have to use in the oven. So like I can make sweet potato, like chopped sweet potato or like French fries, or air fried chicken or Brussels sprouts, things like that, without having to use oil. So it cuts down a lot of calories, which can be really helpful if you're trying to lose weight. Another is avocado oil. So whether you're trying to like make sure your pan doesn't stick, because if you're using like stainless steel or cast iron, definitely don't want to be using like a non-stick pans or like Teflon. You want to be using cast iron or stainless steel. And so avocado spray is good to make sure that stuff doesn't stick to the pan. Instead of using butter, which, I love using butter, but again, if you're trying to cut down calories, an avocado oil spray is going to be a lot less calories while doing the same thing. And it can sometimes be easy to just like spray instead of having to like melt the butter on, especially if you're baking or something like that. And again, you have to look at the ingredients. Many avocado oils or other sprays will, on the front say avocado oil, but when you look at the back, it'll have, like silicone dioxide or some other like anti-caking, blah, blah, blah agent. But there are straight up avocado oil sprays where the only ingredient is avocado oil and it just comes out as a spray. So you don't want to be getting those other detrimental things in your sprays. You want the straight up oil. That's it. And obviously you don't want like the seed oils in there. Same thing with your herbs and spices. Obviously the higher the quality, the better. But you want to be making sure that you're reading the ingredient label and you actually are getting the spice that you're looking at. Some spices are, like they add extra stuff in them, whether it's fillers like dextrose or straight up sugar. So you want to make sure to check the ingredient labels on not just spices, but everything that you buy. Even though, most of the things that you buy should just be like the straight up food. So you don't even need like an ingredient label. Next, let's go to sweeteners. So honey, maple syrup, both pretty similar, kind of just based on what you prefer. Like I totally say, I sweeten my Greek yogurt every day with honey, and it's only like 20 grams of honey. You could even do lower, and 20 grams of honey is only like 60 calories, and that I think that's totally worth it. Anyone is able to fit that into their diet, and like sure it may be carbs, and you obviously have to watch out for how much carbs and sugar you're eating per day, depending on your activity. But I think honey is a super beneficial food. It has a bunch of phytonutrients. Like you would think, like what, like why honey is made by bees? Yes, but the bees get it from bee pollen, and then it's kind of all weird with how they make it in terms of all their bodily fluids. But honey is definitely like a plant food, and also with the beneficial things made from the bees. But there are even really cool studies on honey where it's super beneficial for diabetics, which you think like what, it's kind of just like sugar, but it's not. There's a lot of beneficial um, properties in honey, and same thing with maple syrup, as long as you get like the raw versions. So I like to use those as sweeteners whenever I can, whether it's baking or whether it's just adding it to, certain recipes here and there. And I just I just dump things in really, like with my ground beef, I'll just dump a bunch of spices in and call it a day. That's what I like, but because I'll basically just eat that. I don't really care about making my food look good, but that's what I'm just eating by myself. And another thing that's really cool is if people really have a sweet tooth, fruit is such a hack. You know, I love fruit so much, and there's so many different types. Strawberries, blueberries, all the berries. There's pineapple, there's kiwi, there's oranges, there's banana, apple, mango, all of these fruits, and I think they taste so good. And I can't believe people get dragged into eating these, very um, processed foods like store-bought cookies and brownies and things like that over fruit. And it doesn't mean you can't have those cookies and brownies. Of course, you can have them sometimes. And I prefer to just make them homemade. I think you can make great recipes homemade, and I have for cookies, brownies, etc. But most of the time, I honestly just prefer fruit. And some of the frozen fruits taste like ice cream. Frozen mango, me and all my friends rave about how good frozen mango is. And some of the other frozen fruits like raspberry. I make my honey raspberry chia seed jam, which is super good. And yeah, even some straight up companies, I didn't list it here, but one's called Ice Cream for Bears, which my brother devours, which is, real ice cream, just straight up milk, honey, cream, and like some sort of flavors with whatever flavor you end up get, whether it's cinnamon or cacao or, coffee, which is really cool. But I mean, I think of it this way. I basically eat dessert every single meal and even in between meals with snacks by eating fruit because fruit just I think tastes so good and really is so satiating too because it's like watery as well, which I really love. So along with Ice Cream for Bears, we have some other companies that I think are really good. These are just the ones that I could think of right away. I definitely have a lot more, but one of them is Royo Bread. I've never seen a company that was able to make bread taste so good and have such good ingredients and like nutrient facts. It's kind of crazy. They make it from like the first ingredient is water, which is crazy. And then it's like wheat resistant starch, wheat protein. They have psyllium husk in there, which is a really good fiber. They have what was the last one? Apple cider vinegar in there, which is really beneficial as well. And it tastes like bread. It feels like bread. It toasts like bread. I put my raspberry jam on it, make peanut butter and jellies with it. I don't really do sandwiches that much. That's kind of the only ways I use bread. But I know a bread substitute is something that people look for a lot. I mean, a slice of this bread has 30 calories. It's crazy. Regular slices of bread have like 110 if you look at the package. It's kind of nuts. Also, it doesn't have like the bad just like straight up wheat in it. Not wheat. Flour. It doesn't have the straight up flour in it, white flour, which makes it a whole lot better for you. Another one is the Conscious Bar, which is the best chocolate bar in the world I've ever had, both in how it tastes as well as the ingredients. It's just made with cacao and dates, which is kind of crazy how they make the texture taste so good. And it tastes like straight up chocolate to me. Um, I love it. And a lot of people that I've given it to also love it as well. Both of these are like fairly expensive, but with how good they are, I think it's totally worth it. And it's definitely good to, buy from companies that you think are doing good for society. That's definitely a video I want to make later about, how the companies in our society should be doing good for society in general. Like I think of companies like Coca-Cola or some of the big clothing companies that just sell people plastic. And it's like, you know, these things are really just, hurting people. Um, and you're kind of making a living off it. It doesn't, entirely make sense. And so, or like Coca-Cola, where you're just selling people sugar and water. Um, like there's way better companies than that make drinks a whole lot better, that taste a whole lot better, I think. And so I think that's the money that we should be giving to our companies and to like the building of our society, really. Some last few hacks: drink water. I mean, I drink so much water throughout the day, but I'm also really active. Um, I also I don't really, have a certain threshold I try to reach. I kind of sort of just have a rhythm that I go through or like habits of it. Also, I'll just drink whenever I'm thirsty. And most of what I mean, I think all I drink is water really, and unless it's some of those like newer sodas, but which like Olipop, I believe, is the one of the ones I like. Um, but yeah, just drink water, and especially before meals. Like if you're someone who overeats at meals and you're eating too much food, drink half a glass or a glass of water before you eat, and it will physically fill up your stomach um, so you get fuller quicker. It's actually kind of cool. And a big one that I talk to a lot of people about is curating your environment. And by that, I mean, don't have unhealthy foods or like really high caloric foods if you're trying to lose weight or become healthier. Don't have them in and around your environment, wherever you are, whether it's at home, you don't want it in your fridge, in your kitchen, or in your pantry, or whether you're, going out somewhere, you don't want to be going into stores or fast food restaurants where you're just going to be around and tempted by those things. So just stay with, what you have and the good foods that you have and fruit and all these other sweeteners and spices that make foods taste so good. That's what I love. And I also need to talk about in another video how to build a meal because I feel like a lot of people don't really eat meals. I mean, basically, it just comes down to protein, fruit or carb and vegetable. And that's basically it, but a lot of people don't follow that. Anyways, this is the first. I might have more videos about food and diet hacks, but pretty much just season and sweeten your foods to your desire. Use techniques to, make them lower calorie or easier to create, and also buy from, companies that you trust and that make the world a better place, honestly. So that's it. Enjoy your new working with foods. Nice.